Good evening. Welcome to our first of several lectures here in Beginning Conducting called Concert and Service Music Planning. I'm looking at my computer here. An elementary overview of leadership and administrative goals and processes. You'll want to, before you listen to the rest of this lecture, you want to make sure that you've downloaded the syllabus outline. And we're going to start just by talking a little bit about what we will be doing in these lectures. This is Beginning Conducting, so this is just a broad and quick overview. In Advanced Conducting, we go over all of these things in more detail, and we apply them in the conducting lab. Our overarching goals, if you'll read along with me, is first to determine the theme and context of our concerts or services. So by theme and context, we're talking about what the theme of the year is, like Christmas or Advent or whatever. In context, we're talking about the context of the people that you're presenting your music to, a congregation or the audience. Every audience, every congregation has its own personality, its own context. That's important. Then we're going to be talking about selecting the dates. We're going to be talking about assessing the load and recruiting leadership to assist you as a conductor, establishing a budget, amassing a pool of repertory, the selection and sorting of the repertory, scheduling of performances, services, and rehearsals, organizing the ensembles and rehearsal and repertoire schedules, etc. We're on letter I now, organizing and collation of music. I'm just going to stop here and tell you that I'm going to be taking you through every possible detail that I can think of at this beginning level, where you can actually take this list and into your first job, your first responsibilities, and follow this list and organize yourself very successfully. But there's a lot more to being a conductor than a lot of people realize. 95% of your work is done behind the scenes, maybe more than that, maybe 98%, maybe 99% before they see you on the platform. Kind of like preachers. People look at a preacher and go, well, you know, he gets up there and preaches once a week. He gets paid for that. Not counting all the hundreds of hours in his education and all the scores of hours in preparing every week for those sermons. So for a conductor, it's the same type of thing. We have letter J then, score preparation, going into the first rehearsal, and then what subsequent rehearsals and dress rehearsals are like. Excellence in the machete, it's my favorite portion of the lecture, just talking about how you come to a point in time where you have to be able to sacrifice some of your desires and maybe the desires of the ensemble. Even if it's a concert, you've got things lined up, might have to sacrifice things for the sake of excellence. Being a great coach, the day of this service and performance, and the conductor as a pastor, producer, pedagogue, and performer. First of all, when we look at Roman numeral 1, determining the theme and context, this is something that you want to be doing about a year in advance. And people are always surprised when I tell them how far in advance I plan. It's not because I'm such a great planner, it's because of necessity. If you don't, you're going to have a disaster on your hands. Once in a while, you have to fly by the seat of your pants and make something happen on the spur of the moment. And as a good musician, you're able to do that. But on a regular basis, you're not able to sustain the level of excellence that's required of you by God and the giftedness that He's given you, and by the people that are giving of their tithes and gifts to hire you. And so, 1 year in advance, you want to be looking at these three things, determining the theme and context. First of all, the context of the audience. This is very important. You have to think about the fact that every audience, every congregation has its own family DNA. For some places, they want a lot of folk music and just a little bit of classical music. Some places don't want any classical music. Some places want all classical music. Some venues really like a lot of drama, some a little, some none. And you have to be able to talk to others and to figure out what is the context of the audience. That's where you start. In my profession, I've served in several different churches, And in a couple of those churches, doing Handel's Messiah was a big deal. In other places, it was ho-hum. Had I done that, nobody would have come. And I've done every conceivable style of music. And so your role, whether you're working in the church, which is what we're mentoring you for, or even outside the church, your role is to serve other people. And musicians that don't want to do that generally aren't putting food on the table, quite frankly. Number two, then, a year in advance, you're looking at the theme of your concert venue. So your theme may be Christmas or Easter or whatever. I'm not going to go too much further into that. You can use your own creativity. But this type of thing is done a year in advance. Third, early consideration of available resources and ensemble ability. In your first job or so, that's going to be kind of hard. You're going to just do the best you can, talk to your superiors, see what kind of money you're going to have available to you. I've worked with everything. I've had budgets of $50,000 to $100,000. I've worked with nothing. And so early consideration of those available resources, as well as orchestral availability and ensemble ability. So you've got a group of singers. One time I had a choir of 5 people, and they were all terrible, but we still had to do a Christmas program, so I had to come up with something. Other times I've had 200 or 300 people on the platform. I love doing it all, and so will you. But you've got to look at what is the ability of my ensemble and my soloists and all early on, the best you can when you're first looking at the theme and context. Number two, once you've done that and you've got that generally roughed in, you're going to select the dates. These dates may be dictated to you, or they might have said, hey, when do you want to do a Christmas program? Here again, you want to be doing this a year in advance. And what I do with special programs as well as my weekly services, I schedule backwards. And I'll tell you what that means. Just a reminder, if you see my camera shaking around, I have low-cost equipment here, so this is not a recording studio. Scheduling backwards. If you take a look at one of the schedules that I have put up on the website for you, and we're going to look at some of those in detail later. But if you look at, for instance, the anthem schedule, and you can pull that out in front of you right now. The first thing that I do, so this is a year in advance, and I'm putting things here in logical order, alrighty? When I'm selecting dates and I schedule backwards, I look at the largest demanding concerts and services first. So I'm going to look at, where is Easter going to be? Where's the Palm Sunday concert going to be? Where's Holy Week? Where's Christmas? Where's the Christmas concert going to be? Christmas Eve, those kinds of things. Other potential concerts. And I schedule backwards from there. And the reason I say backwards is I'm going to look at the coming year and schedule back from those. I'll show you here in a little bit the details of that scheduling. Then once I see that schedule, number two, a year in advance, I'm coordinating with other departments and contractors. So I'm looking at anybody else that I might need to coordinate with. The school, the operations department, anything like that. Whether you're working in a school, a Christian college, or whether you're in a church situation. Then contractors. I'm going to give a heads up a year in advance to whomever I'm using to hire my professional musicians and singers. Don't always do that, but when I am, or I'm bringing in symphony players, I'm going to give a heads up to that contractor to make sure that I'm not scheduling something right on top of their big event, and I'm unable to get the professional players that I need. If you'll take a look now at number 3, it says assessing the load and recruiting leadership 3 to 6 months in advance. The earlier the better when you're first entering one of your first jobs. I say here that you probably are going to want to look at the potential of having directors over each area for large events. Some of these, if you've got a small choir, you've got 15 people and you're serving in a place that has 100 congregants or so, you're going to be able to do some of these things on your own. You're still going to want some volunteer directors to help you and take the load off of you so that you're able to concentrate on the things that you're gifted to do, and especially in terms of ministry and music. And so here are these particular areas. The library. I cannot emphasize enough, don't take care of the library on your own. Get somebody who is good with detail, they love to collate, that kind of thing. And get somebody to help you there. Somebody to help you with the budget administrative. Those of you that are married, it might be your spouse, okay? Or if you know somebody else that's good with money, even if you are, get these things off your table. It's going to help you tremendously as you come down into the season of time closer to your concert or closer to a large service. But of the two, the number one thing I always look for is library help. Number 3, advertising online and print media. You can do that on your own. I know a lot of people that do, but it's nice to have somebody help you with that. Concert support. Be thinking about, will you be needing ushers and parking attendants, or refreshments, security? You want to be thinking about this 3 to 6 months in advance so that you've got all that taken care of. It's off your plate. Sound, lights, and media. Here again, you're going to want somebody that really knows what they're doing and is a good assistant to you. I always say that my administrative assistant and my sound man are the 2 must-haves. Now that librarian is very close to that, but my administrative assistant is a person who's going to keep everybody else organized. I've had volunteer assistants and I've had staff assistants, and it's great because as a musician you get into your conducting and all, and everything from where are sharpened pencils to this guy showed up and he's sitting in the wrong place, all sorts of things that your administrative assistant can take care of. But that sound man, you want to remember, is an instrumentalist. That sound person is another instrument in your orchestra. It's another voice in your choir. Just think about this. In many venues, if you don't have amplification, you have nothing, and the whole program would be unintelligible and sound terrible. So these are 2 people that must fit with your chemistry, follow your directives, and are going to be your right-hand people. Ensemble social support. Social things are really important for people. They're not that important for me, but they're important for about everybody else. And so getting someone to help you with the, just a little bit of refreshments and that kind of thing, whenever you're going to do it, it's really very helpful to the community of your musicians. Accompanists and section rehearsal leadership. Think about that. Are you going to need somebody? Unless you're going to be accompanying yourself, you're going to want a good accompanist to help you out. Now, I've not always had that. There have been times where I've had small churches, I was the only piano player. But nonetheless, that's something you want to be looking at 3 to 6 months in advance. You don't want to be counting on an accompanist, get a week from Christmas and you still don't have one. You could have done a whole different Christmas program, so you want to be looking at this. Set design and construction. Are you going to be doing a drama, that kind of thing? Now's the time to find somebody to do that. I've learned the hard way. I used to do that myself, and by the time we got the program, when I was producing musicals and stuff, I enjoyed set design and construction, but I had so much on my mind that I didn't conduct with excellence, and that the show was not as good as it could have been had I had somebody else doing all that. Stage assistants, you're going to need those. You're going to need somebody helping you in the platform with moving sets or costumes, that kind of thing. Even in classical performances, stage assistants can be very important. You're going to have chairs moving. Are you going to be moving risers? Do you have an instrument, harpsichord, organ, continuo, something's going to move? We're going to be thinking about this 3 to 6 months in advance so that it is planned with excellence. And then finally, these 2 things, the drama director. If you're doing a musical of any kind, the drama director is a must-have, and get a good one, because they are going to take their whole schedule and work out with their people, assist you, dovetail into your plans. I highly advise against doing your own drama direction and your own musical direction. It can be done. I've done it, but it's much better this way. A word about types of personalities and their strengths. You want to look at the kinds of personalities that you surround yourself with friends and the people that you really get along with in chemistry. Generally, those kinds of people, not always, but generally, those are the kinds of people that are going to work well with you. When you're dealing with the arts, you get some types of personalities that can be so focused and so determined to do things their way that you can have some real clashes. And the fact of the matter is that in your program, there's no room for a democracy. I'm all about hearing other people's opinions and all this kind of stuff is important. But bottom line, the buck stops with you. And you're going to be held responsible for the level of excellence of things. And you've got to have a team of people that like working with you. That's more important than their talent. Now, the talent is important. But if they don't like you, if the chemistry's not good, then the giftedness is going to hide behind the conflict in personalities. It's just the way it is. Unless you've got a multi-million-dollar budget and you've got a producer that's a billionaire and you're working for a movie house somewhere, these personalities are an important thing to look at. So take your time in asking people to surround you and look first at the chemistry and personality. Are they a kind of person that you enjoy? Are you comfortable around them? Are they comfortable around you? There's always going to be relational issues, but that's just something that I've learned over time. It's more important that I have a community with my leaders than their gift level. And you will also find that certain types of individuals are drawn towards certain types of arts. You have just different types of people. Guys in the sound booth are generally detail-oriented. They're not extroverts most of the time, and they're quiet. They like to be told, hey, here's the general parameters of what I want, but they don't like to be micromanaged. And that's not necessarily true for other people. Librarians, for the most part, are the kind of people that they really want to know, what do you want? What exactly do you want? And they'll come in and they'll do that. But they don't like to be given a task and you walk away from it and go, oh, well, whatever, because they have no concept of what you want to serve your people. So there's just different types of personalities drawn to different things. This is an art. It's learned through experience. You're going to do fine. I don't want to scare you with this. It's just something that I wanted to talk to you about. If you get into a fix, you have some questions in your first few years with your work, don't hesitate to call me. In my first few years, I called my mentor all the time with all sorts of crazy questions. That ends this part of this lecture, and we'll start our next lecture with establishing a budget.